punching Saints D-back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on Sunday. What do you think? Was the 2-game suspension for Wims too much, too little, or just right, Brian?
You know, if I was the guy making these decisions, I know John Runyon makes those decisions for the league office, I would have considered actually suspending them for more games. This is the type of thing that I don't think belongs in our game. It's because it's not in the flow of the game. This has absolutely nothing. There was nothing going on at the point for this to actually happen. In my opinion, football is about discipline. Yeah. Football is about concentration, not a street brawl. And I hate seeing things like this.
I agree, but Nick Wright, he has a lot of good information. Nick, I want to hear from you because you I don't know if you got inside scoops and you got people on the inside on these teams.
One of my
sources. The backstory. Tell us, because it may change your perspective a little bit. B, well, I know this has no place in football, but that on the other side, this dude needs to be held accountable as well.
So here's the deal. This might be a controversial take to some. Wims says Gardner-Johnson spit at him. And if someone spits at you, you're allowed to punch them. I'm not talking about like back when we used to be in studio, Jenna, and you would accidentally spit across the desk at me. I mean, when you intentionally spit at someone, it happened all the time. You're allowed to hit them. So here's my take, Wilds. If you allege someone spit at you and you can prove it, your suspension goes away. But if you're lying about them spitting at you, your suspension gets tripled. So the suspension would be paused. It's either going to be 0 or 6. If he was spit on, 0. If not, it's 6 games. What say you, Kevin Wilds?
Okay, that's... Well, was that so it was like the Rondo Chris Paul story, right? That like it was like an alleged spitting that never happened. Brian, the only reason I wouldn't say that I think this is a fine suspension, there's no actual damage. So it looks bad,
oh my goodness.
But when you punch someone and they literally don't move, I think that has to be taken into the equation. When it's literally like no harm, no foul, literally no harm.
Where's the second spitter? Have we seen the end of Jimmy G as a 49er? We're moving on because those takes asked about the Packers potentially adding another offensive weapon before the deadline. Taking a listen to what he had to say.
The trade deadline's in 2 days. Do you need to add to that position to be the offense that you want to be long term?
Well, Ryan, it's not a bad question, but it's not one that I can answer. We've had many conversations about this type of thing over the years. And I, truly understand my role. I'm not going to stomp for anybody. Last time I stomped for a player, he ended up going to Buffalo. So I like the guys that we have.
I feel like with that hat, commit to over the years or under the ears, but the halfway doesn't work for me, but that's neither here nor there. Brian, would the Packers be making a mistake not adding another offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers up there in Green Bay as the trade deadline fast approaches the end of today?
You know, Jenna, first of all, that's a great no answer by Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's no way that you win that conversation of whether you should add people or not. That was a great no answer. Offensively, I think they're okay. And this is what I believe. I think Devontae Adams, we know that he is a great athlete, one of the best in the game. They get Aaron Jones back healthy. Of course, they have Williams. They have the inside-outside run game in the back that can seal the deal in the pass game. I think offensively, they're okay. To me, if you're going to add anything to this team, instead of adding the receiver and trying to outscore teams, how about you add someone on the defensive side? At this point, their defense is one of the worst defenses in the league with takeaways. They only have 2 interceptions and 2 recovered fumbles at this point. They're also they have one of the highest passer rating against their defense. Only the Vikings, the Texans, and the Falcons are worse than them. So to me, the offense is going to be okay if they get some takeaways on the defensive side so that their offense can have shorter fields and easier ways to score. And then defensively, if you can just stop the pass, I don't think your offense is going to have to score as many points. So offensively, I think you're set. Defensively, you got to find some more playmakers if you want to help your offense win football games.
Yeah.
Brian, you nailed it. Brian, you absolutely nailed it. It's not about the offensive side of the ball. Last year, why'd you lose to San Francisco? Because they bullied you. This year, when you've lost the 2 games you've lost, why'd you lose to Tampa? They bullied you. Why'd you lose to Minnesota? You couldn't stop Dalvin Cook. It's the defense, most notably the front 7, which is why it's been so curious to see them stand pat when in the last 2 weeks, Seattle added Carlos Dunlap. Baltimore added Yannick Ngakoue. Tennessee added Desmond King. The Steelers just added Avery Williamson. New Orleans added Quan Alexander. Detroit added Everson Griffin. There's more. Arizona added Marcus Golden. San Francisco added Willis, and Tampa Bay added Steve McClendon. That's 9 teams that are competing for the playoffs, most of which, by the way, in the NFC, all who added defensive players. Where the hell have you been, Gutekunst? Like, what are you doing? These are players that could help you right now, and they were available. And so, Brandon, I do think they should be active today. I don't think they will be, but I don't think it's to add a weapon. I think it's to add someone in that front 7 to help that defense.
Yeah, but Nick, is it really their MO? I mean, they haven't been aggressive in free agency. They haven't been aggressive, you know, at the trade deadline. That's just not the Green Bay Packers' MO. Now, when I saw this, I'm like, okay, it doesn't seem like they need an addition. They really need an adjustment. And what does that mean? Like, outside looking in, yeah, adding more weapons to Aaron Rodgers, you know, arsenal could be deadly. But at the end of the day, like, he has what he needs. Now, is it what he always had back in the glory days? No. But he has a really good tight end. He has a dominant dog #1 wide receiver. He has 2 running backs. He has Allen Lazard, practice Thursday, should be coming back soon. Valdez-Scantling, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He had 1 target last week, but this is a guy that can play. So does he really need that? No. And then to your guys' point, on the defensive side, really need help when you talk about personnel. But sometimes the NFL just catches up to you from a scheme standpoint. That's why I say they need more of an adjustment than an addition, because what's happening? This team, they're not bad from a personnel standpoint. Is teams keying in on what they do well and where their weaknesses are? They have a really good offensive line. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They got Aaron Rodgers. Defensively, they're just okay, middle-of-the-road type defense, but enough to hold up and give Aaron Rodgers a chance. So for me, I think it starts with the coaching staff.
You know what I want? I'm a sentimental guy. Randall Cobb back to Green Bay. Well, the Texans aren't doing anything. 1-6. Like, at this point, you fired Bill O'Brien. You're 0-4, and then you're 1-6. I think it's fair. You could go to Deshaun Watson and be like, hey, you know what? And the chaplain will come down and say, like, hey, you know what? We're going to plan for next year. I'm in charge now, in a very curious way. So, hey, Randall Cobb, he called the Packers his ex-girlfriend. It'd be nice for them to reunite, like, take some pictures together. Aaron Rodgers is happy, got some great photos. It'd be lovely. So Randall Cobb back to Green Bay.
So here's my question to the group. Does anybody right now think the Packers, as presently constituted, are good enough to win the NFC? Does anybody think that?
Yes.
Not that it's impossible.
I believe
you
so.
do. With no moves. No moves that they could.
With an adjustment. I do.
What's the adjustment, Brandon? I want to hear. I'm curious.
The adjustment, to me, is more scheme, because, like, I mean, we gotta peel back the layers. It's a really intriguing conversation, because when you look at how this team is set up, offensively, their offensive line is really good. Their running game, they have 2 really good running backs, and they have Aaron Rodgers with some pass catchers that can get it done. Defensively, they're not great, but it's enough. The last time they won the Super Bowl, they were set up the same way. So it has to start with the scheme. Teams are keying in on them. Look what the Tampa Bay Bucks did to them. They made them look like a JV team. So that's why I say they do have enough if the coaches make the adjustments that they need necessary going into November, December.
Okay. You know, Brandon, this is why I'm focused on the defensive side of the ball, because when you get bullied in the run game, that takes the ball right out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. So every team that comes in and plays the Green Bay Packers, they're saying, let's just run the ball down their throat. And that way, Aaron Rodgers can't touch the football. They have to be better on the defensive side of the ball so they can get those explosive players, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Devontae Adams, the ball back in their hands for them to win football games, not to put it in their defensive hands and lose football games.
Hey, Brian, I want to quickly ask you.